Warning, the following show will spoil the hell out of George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire books and the TV show A Game of Thrones. Also, you're probably going to find a fuck ton of bad language. The explicit tag is there for a reason.
Death and boobies, 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 death and boobies. Hello and welcome back to the Ironwood Network Book Club. I am your host, Septa Ironwood, and with me, as always, is Maester Ironwood. How are you?
Doing good. Doing good. Full day. This day, it's like spring.
Yep.
Which is scary as fuck.
For February.
Shouldn't. I think our average temperature 30s.
Mm-hmm.
Should not be the case.
Nope.
That's kind of terrifying.
It is.
But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
People don't like when we talk politics, but we're sitting in the...
Global
It's
warming.
way too warm this winter. It hasn't even been a winter. It's been a spring here in upstate New York. So when you get further north, they probably have a lot of snow, just lake effect snow, but it's even been too warm up there.
Yeah, I think they've had one good storm so far.
But that's just, I mean, that also means that it's been too warm. As cold as it should be. Can't snow. All right. Septa, what are we here to talk about?
Brienne.
Brienne 1, Feast for Crows.
Yep.
I forgot how long but short this book is. So it's still really long.
Yep.
But it's only 35 chapters.
I thought it was 45.
No, it's like 35 chapters.
Okay.
So it's super short as far as chapters go.
Right.
It's just a lot of long chapters.
Yes.
Like this Brienne chapter was
multiple,
really long.
Yeah, multiple pages, yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
For not a lot
chapter,
of...
I hope, yeah, for not a lot of information.
Yeah.
Not a lot of like, literally the story didn't progress.
Right.
For Brienne, really. I mean, we just kind of like touched
She's
base
still
with
off
her.
on her side quest.
Yeah, she's still on her quest. We met new important characters, or characters who seem unassuming now, but will become important later on.
Yes.
So that's good. I think that I have a feeling that is the reason this whole chapter.
Because
meeting one specific character.
Quite possibly, yes.
Because like it doesn't do anything for Brienne.
Nope.
Except for her and her sword that she hides.
Yep.
But it does introduce us to another character who's going to play a pivotal role in ending later on.
Yes.
I think that's why this chapter is.
Quite possible.
So, we'll get into that.
Yep.
All right. Before we do a synopsis, I have a haiku. The Maiden of Tarth, bringing the gold hands justice. A fruitless journey.
That's pretty, yeah.
Because she ain't never going to find Sansa Stark.
No.
She's looking in all the wrong places.
Yes.
She's looking for love in all the wrong faces.
Pen.
Are you writing down my 80s reference as a potential title?
I mean, close enough.
All right. So, a brief synopsis of this chapter. Essentially what happens is Brienne is on her way through the Riverlands looking for Sansa Stark. She comes across two hedge knights and joins up with them for dinner and a night of sleep. And then they head on to Duskendale in the morning. They arrive in Duskendale after meeting with a couple of other knights, one of whom knows who Brienne is looking for, but Brienne won't admit who she's looking for, even though he can tell 100% who she's looking for.
Yeah.
And basically, she gets a really bad feeling. She buys at least to her two companions, a room. And then in the middle of the night, she moseys on off by herself while everybody sleeps. She does be found out.
Yes.
And that's what happens. That is the chapter. There's really only a few things that I think we really need to talk about in this one.
Yeah, because you skipped over the important part.
I did, on purpose. She meets some random travelers along the way.
Yes.
And we'll get into that.
Yes.
All right. So, I guess the first big thing to talk about is Brienne's mission.
Yes.
She explains how stupid what she's doing is.
Yes.
And how she has no chance of doing it.
Yes.
Like she tells us, for all I know, Sansa could literally still be in King's Landing. She could have been secretly beheaded by the royal family. Or she could be on a ship to Asshai, for all I fucking know.
Yes.
Like, literally, I will never find her. And yet, I'm out here trying to find her.
Yep. She said she's looking for a leaf in a pile of leaves.
Yeah.
Is what she
Basically.
said.
Yeah. I'm looking for a needle in a haystack without even knowing where the haystack is.
Yeah, or knowing how big it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, go find a needle in the haystack. Where's the haystack? We gotta find the haystack first. Well, fuck. That makes it significantly more difficult.
Yes.
So she's on this fool's quest.
Yes.
I don't I understand her. Write that one down. I understand her desire to do right by Catelyn Stark.
Yes.
Like, I understand who Brienne is, but there's gotta be, like, a better way.
Well, this was also probably the only way Jaime could have gotten Brienne out of King's Landing without the Tyrells having a big to-do about it. Because Sir Loras was absolutely furious that Brienne wasn't dead yet because he was convinced Brienne was the one that killed Renly.
Yeah, but he changed his mind, remember, after Jaime had him talk to Brienne?
Right. But Jaime couldn't just let Brienne go in King's Landing.
Right.
Even though she tried and couldn't find any information on Sansa.
Yeah, like, send her home.
Yeah. But she fancies herself a knight because she's not officially a knight.
Right.
And she wants to continue doing what she swore to Catelyn did because she says even an oath to a dead person is
Still
more...
an oath.
Yeah. And it's more relevant when they're dead.
Right. Yeah, like I said, I get it. It's just like...
It's fruitless.
Yeah, and we're going to come to a point later on where you're like, wow, you made an oath to this person and she about to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
When we find Lady Stoneheart, Brienne's run-in with Lady Stoneheart does not go well.
Why? But we'll get to that because I didn't know that.
You don't know that.
No.
So, I mean, like, she's out here doing this thing for this oath that she owes Catelyn Stark. Mm-hmm. And Catelyn Stark's like, go fuck yourself.
Right.
When they meet up. So, I guess if it was my first time through this book like you, I would understand that, okay, even though it looks like it's this journey with no end, maybe something good can come of it.
Yes.
However, knowing where this book ends for Brienne,
yes.
is like, this is fucking stupid.
Yeah, it's like...
like, I have that hindsight of knowing where it leads to, and it's
right.
like, well, Jesus Christ, that's fucking dumb.
Yeah.
Like, bitch, just go home.
Right. But she's trying to do what she swore to do.
Yeah, she is.
Because the first oath she made didn't hold up because Renly died.
Right.
And then the second oath she made, Catelyn died before she could finish the oath.
Yeah.
So now she's trying to uphold her oath to Jaime, which was to uphold the oath to Catelyn.
Right. And she got a pretty sword out of it.
Yes, she has oath keeper.
Yes. But she doesn't show off.
No, which is probably smart.
Probably smart.
Yes.
Although, then she ends up having to, like, if she's going to fight somebody, she's going to have to fight with that shitty sword.
She knows how to fight with it, though.
I wonder... Okay, so one of the things I want to talk about is Brienne lets us into her mind about swords.
Yes.
About powerful swords. The swords of heroes.
Yes.
And how Oathkeeper is certainly one of those swords.
Yes.
So, do you think she'll ever use Oathkeeper?
No.
Because, like some of the knights that she lists off who had their swords of power before, would never use them against human opponents or with regular swords because it wasn't a fair fight.
Right. I don't think she'd use it because, one, she's not a knight, even though she dreams of being a knight.
Right.
And two, she doesn't fancy herself this great knight like these great people in the stories and the songs are. So I don't think she'd want to taint the sword, for lack of a better word, with her mediocre fighting. Even though she's a great fighter, but she also admits that Jaime, when he had his hand, he was starved, he was exhausted, he was dehydrated, and he was chained, and he was crazy and desperate. And she did everything she could, and she still barely won. And the only reason she won was because the brave companions stumbled upon them.
Right.
And then they took his sword hand. So
yeah, she wondered.
She would have absolutely lost that fight if Jaime was in his prime.
She'd have been dead in 30 seconds.
Right.
And then she wonders that. She's like, how anybody would dare stand against him when he was in his prime. Like,
right, exactly.
Like it was suicide
to
do that. And yet he was defeated in battle.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
You know, he was in his prime when he went into battle.
Yeah, and Robb Stark captured him. Yeah.
Yeah, so that says a lot about how good
Robb's army was at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then Robb fucked it all up.
Yeah.
Dumbass.
Well, he had fucked it up before that.
Dumbass. But yeah, so, yeah, I get I want to think that, okay, so, I know because of the TV show, everybody thinks that Brienne's going to become this hero who's worthy of wielding a sword like her.
Right.
But I wonder if that's not what we have in store. Like, I wonder if maybe she's kind of like holding it to pass off to somebody else.
Right.
Since it's this Jon Snow's new sword.
I was going to say, kind of like how Jon Snow tried to give Jorah his dad's
TV show.
Yeah. Sword back in the TV show. Is Brienne going to do the same and give it to Jon?
Right. Or try
or Arya, or...
Right. Well, it's way too big for Arya.
It doesn't mean she has to use it.
Right. But...
Right.
Like, I could see her offering it to Jon Snow at some point.
Whether
he would take it, like, I still think that Jon Snow is a Dane, so I still think that Jon Snow at some point is going to get Dawn.
Yes.
And so if he gets Dawn, I could see him having Brienne keep Oathkeeper. I don't know if I see Jorah making it all the way Longclaw back from Jon.
Right.
At some point. I mean, because that's a lot of, like, ring around the sword, like...
It is. And especially with Longclaw working with Jon the way it does.
Yes.
So I don't see...
So is it possible that Longclaw is perhaps like the ancient Stark sword, and that explains maybe why the Mormonts are so loyal to the Starks? Is it possible that they've been holding ice for hundreds and hundreds of years, and that's why it works so well with Jon?
Was its name Ice?
We don't know. We just know that, like, 800, like, the Starks had the current ice that's been now broken up into Widow's Wail and Oathkeeper. They had that for about 400 years, give or take.
They had another sword before that.
Before that, they had a more ancient sword, their original sword, that was called Ice.
Right.
And the fact that Longclaw does play so well with Jon,
yes,
makes me wonder if the Mormonts, for some reason, had ice. If maybe they were holding it for the Starks, or it was given to them by the Starks for some great service that they rendered at some point throughout history. It must have
had to have been a humongous service to get the family sword.
I completely understand that. I mean, because you think about, like, the Mormonts and, like, their loyalty to the Starks. Like,
yeah, they're about as loyal as the Mandarins.
Yeah, they are extremely loyal. They're as loyal as it gets.
Yeah.
Even now, Mage is extremely loyal. After her entire family's died in the service of the Starks.
Yes.
She's still extremely loyal.
Yes, she is.
And the Manderleys, we get from them that they owe the Starks basically a debt that could never be repaid.
Yes.
I wonder if the same is true of the Mormonts.
I'm going to assume it is, because we know with the Manderleys live in the north, but the Mander River is in the south.
Right, so they come from the Mander River.
Yes.
They come from down there. They came to the north.
Yeah.
And the Starks took them in, which big houses won't always take because in a lot of ways, the Manderleys are a more powerful house than the Starks.
Right.
When you look at the money and the influence that they have.
Right.
And yet the Starks welcomed them to the north.
Yes.
Basically no questions asked.
Yes.
As far as we know.
Yes.
And they did it so freely and openly against what must have been extreme, like, pressure not to do so, if the Manderleys remember it still these hundreds of years later as this debt that could never be repaid.
Yes.
So I wonder if, because, Longclaw plays too well with Jon, like, extremely well with Jon. Like, we never, like, when Brienne holds Oathkeeper, which is made of the same stuff as Longclaw.
Yes.
She never explains to us how it feels like Longclaw does with Jon.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if Longclaw has a connection to the Starks that we just don't know about yet.
It's a very good.
Like, that would be interesting if that was like the original ice, and it was given as a gift to the Mormonts or something. I don't know what the Mormonts could have done to deserve that.
Right.
But, I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility.
Right.
It's one of the few ways you could explain how a family like the Mormonts could have a steel sword.
Right.
Is if it were gifted to them by the Starks.
Right.
Because they're not that sword is literally worth more than all of the holdings of the Mormonts everywhere.
Yes.
So, them having it is very...
Yes.
So, as a gift from the Starks for some service rendered would make a lot of sense as how they actually
and that would make perfect sense as to why Jorah left it to Jon as well.
Correct. And why it works so well in tandem with just a thought.
It's a very
I like the chapters that play with the swords.
Yeah.
Because the swords, And it just makes me wonder, like, if Jon doesn't really have a connection with Longclaw, if Longclaw just is a Mormont sword somehow, and not, like, Stark's sword, then are we going to play, like, a big game of, like, musical swords later on in, you know, somewhere in Winds of Winter, where, like, Jon gives Jorah the fucking Longclaw, and Brienne gives Jon Oathkeeper, but then Jon gives Oathkeeper to somebody else because he gets Dawn from the Danes.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Like, are we going to play this big switcheroonie of swords later on where everybody's just passing swords around to each other?
Yeah.
Which would just seem very weird.
It would seem
And then
very
we've got one more sword that we really hear a lot about, which Lady Forlorn.
Yep.
Which is a dragon steel sword.
Yeah.
Which is essentially the precursor to Valyrian steel. And how does that fit into the whole process?
And then we've also got Widow's Wail at some point.
We know where that comes from, though. But who's going to be wielding Widow's Wail? I mean, is Tommen going to be old enough to?
Right.
Is Jaime going to use it?
Right, exactly.
Which I think might be what happens.
Right.
Tommen, I don't think he's going to ever give a shit about using a sword.
Right.
And, like, who's around to stop Jaime from using Widow's Wail?
Exactly.
Like, Cersei, that's it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. An interesting chapter with the swords.
Yeah.
And the discussion of the knights and their ancient swords of power and all that good. So, yeah, I did a little bit. All right. The other big thing to talk about in this chapter is who Brienne meets on the road to Duskendale.
Right.
On the second day.
Yep. So her first night out, she at dusk, she stops because she sees a fire by a brook.
Yep.
And the two men welcome her to share their dinner and rest easy for the night.
We got enough trout for 3.
Yep. And we won't harm you.
Yep.
So
they're good Sir Knights.
Yes. They're probably not entirely who they say they are, because the one, all he does is boast about fighting at the Blackwater, but he's a name Brienne doesn't recognize, and the people he fought are people Brienne don't recognize the names of.
Well, he seems like an embellisher.
Yes.
He seems like the Elizabeth Warren of this party. Let me just embellish everything I say just this little bit to make it seem cooler.
Yeah.
Like, he was probably at the Battle of Blackwater. He probably, like...
He was probably some sort, so it doesn't matter.
Killed some squire.
Yeah, exactly.
And, like, well, I can't just say that. So I took 12 ransoms, and I slew Sir Crazy...
If he took 12 ransoms, he wouldn't be as broke as he looks.
Yeah, I slew Sir Crazy Chicken of the Bleeding Heart in the fucking, in single combat on the river. And, like, he's embellishing his story. Like, I have no doubt that he fought there.
Right.
Or that he's fought in battle.
But he's a no-name.
Yeah, he certainly didn't do everything he says.
Yeah.
He just says, the one that the singers sing about. Brienne's like, I've never heard a song about this guy in my fucking life.
Yeah, exactly.
So, he embellishes quite a bit. I have a feeling.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that's fine. Whatever. Some
whatever gets him through the day.
Trump got to be president by being the greatest self-promoter in the history of the world. So, there's something to be said for self-marketing. Yeah. And this guy's out there doing it. Mm-hmm. So, more power to him. More power to him. But, yeah. Who do they come across on their second day after they... Because they sleep, and it's really...
So, the next day, they're on the road. And they come across a large group of people who are praying. Mm-hmm. And they stop to chit-chat. Yep. People are Septons and a bunch of just...
commoners.
Yeah.
They're the poor brothers.
Yep, heading to the
city. They don't tell us which city.
Yeah.
They're heading to the city.
And they're carrying a cart full of bones.
Yes. Of religious heroes.
Yep. Men
and women who were... tortured and killed, their bones to the set to be honored.
Yep. And then one of the guys calls them the Sparrows.
Yep. So they're poor brothers, but then they're also sparrows.
Yep. And when they ask for clarification, they're like, they're just the simplest of birds. Yep. And so we are the Sparrows. And this guy is...
He seems to be kind of like the leader of the group. Yes. He seems to speak for them.
Yep. Because they invite them to go with them to King's Landing when they say no.
To the city.
Or to the city. But everyone knows where they're going.
Yeah. Well, there's a few cities. I mean, there's...
They're like, no, we've got to get going where we're going. And some of the people are like completely shocked and baffled that,
They wouldn't help them out and wouldn't travel with them. Good Sir Knights, please come with us. Yeah,
and they're not going to turn into highly religious people. Yeah.
So this stranger who calls them sparrows will make a splash later on. So this is the first time we meet the High Sparrow. Yes. Soon to be High Septon of the realm. Yes. Thanks to Cersei. Yes. More on this.
As soon as he called as soon as he called them sparrows, I went, oh shit.
I know who this guy is.
Yep. Because they were in the TVO.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I immediately saw the actor's face, and he's a good actor. He's a very good actor.
Yes, extremely good.
So I was like, this is not good. Doesn't do anything for Brienne and her storyline.
No, but and like I said, I think
was like,
this chapter
here he
exists
Yeah.
specifically for that.
Yeah.
So, yep. So we meet the High Sparrow. We meet the beginnings of his flock.
Yep. Because
As
one
the
of the men
head-
had the 7 stars carved into his chest.
Yes.
At least it wasn't in his forehead like they do in the TV show.
As the poor brothers of old used to do.
Yes.
When they first came, when the first warrior Andals came from Essos to conquer Westeros, wore the 7-pointed star
on there.
carved into their flesh.
Yeah.
It's fucking insane.
At least it's not on their forehead.
Yeah. Which, I mean, essentially, it's like, like a soldier getting a tattoo these days or something. Yeah. Same idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
all I could think of is, thank God it's not his forehead.
right now.
Right now.
But yeah, so that's who these guys are. Now we did get one interesting line here about that I found interesting, right? So if you've gone through the books as well as like the other books, like the World Book and the Blood and Fire and Blood book about the Targaryen, you don't get a real rosy picture of the.
No.
They seem much like bad people.
Yes.
So like the warrior sons, and they seem like. And we get an interesting line in this chapter that equates them in a way to evil characters in our story.
Right.
So when they're when one of the knights that's with Brienne is talking about the silence,
Yeah.
and he makes a statement about how their private parts are as cold as ice.
Yeah.
Which just immediately brings to my mind the Night's Queen, the other who seduced the Night King up at the wall hundreds and hundreds of years ago.
Right. He was a Lord Commander, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So it just makes me think of her. Because she was like an other who could like walk and talk.
That's kind of creepy.
Yeah. So I just
But
think...
the silent system.
Right. Because they're silent.
Right.
But what I mean is she was human enough that she seduced this man.
Right.
Into falling in love with her and having children with her.
Right.
And her private parts must have been as cold as she's like literally an other.
Right.
So just this line about the silent sisters just makes me...
It's kind of creepy.
And ties, in my mind, the faith with the others. As in, they're part of the...
That's a very good point. Very good point. Sorry, that is...
Yeah. But yeah, that's just kind of what I took from that little line. Just like a little...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. George is notorious.
Just let me just drop this in here real quick and see if anybody notices that shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he does that all the time, so... But, the last real thing that we need to go over is just kind of how the chapter is. So, when they reach Duskendale, we
don't need to talk about the merchant?
Well, we can if you want. Go ahead.
Well, the next people they run into is a merchant and his wagon of goods and his cell store. Mm-hmm. And Brienne asks them if they've seen her sister. Yep. Who might be running around with a portly man or a fool. Because the way Brienne's been looking for Sansa is saying, I'm looking for my sister. I'm made of 10 and 3.
Who 13. Looks nothing like me.
Yeah. Auburn hair and blue eyes.
Yeah. Who looks nothing like me.
Yeah. But you know what? I have a sister who looks nothing like me.
That's fair.
So, and they're like, no, we haven't seen him, but we're all going to the same place. Why don't you ride with us? And the sellsword basically kind of like pulls Brienne aside and says, I'm looking for...
Should we split the money?
Yeah.
If we find her?
Yeah. I'm willing to get the spider's gold.
Yeah.
That's what they said. And I'll trade it. I'll split it 50 with you. Yeah. And that's when Brienne's like, okay, I need to get on one.
Right. So they continue on to Duskendale.
Yep.
They all get a room at the inn.
Yep. Brienne pays for her 2 companions to have a room and a nice meal.
Yep. And then for her to have a room.
Yep.
And then in the middle of the night, she sneaks off.
Yes.
And rides away into the darkness.
Yes.
Kind of swallowed by these dark sentinel trees.
Yes.
You read that last sentence. It's like with the forest closing in on her. It's like very like foreboding for Brienne's future. Yeah. The way this is described in that last sentence. Yeah. Doesn't seem very good for her.
There is another character that was pointed out actually a couple times, but kind of like in an offhanded way, like he's irrelevant.
And we all know how people that are irrelevant come back to not, like this sparrow.
Yes.
Come back to not be irrelevant.
Yeah, because in the beginning of the chapter, she was asking these people in this first town she came to, and it wasn't really a town. It was like the road widened here where there was more buildings and stuff.
Like a crossroad, and that's it. Yeah.
She had asked everyone there if they had seen her quote-unquote sister.
Yep.
And she saw a boy on a piebald horse atop a hill, and she went to go ask him, and he disappeared, and she wasn't going to go looking for him.
Yep.
And then during the night while she slept, a couple people had passed by their campsite, and when Brienne asked if anyone had passed, he said, "Oh, it was just the people that looked like they wanted to rob us, but then decided not to, and a skinny boy on a piebald." So twice we've got this skinny boy on a piebald horse mentioned.
Yep.
Which means he's going to come back in the...
And who do you think this is?
It's Podrick Payne.
Podrick! You think it's Pod?
I've read ahead.
Oh, okay.
So I know it's Podrick Payne.
Okay. Well, that takes all the fun out of it.
But I didn't notice it the first time I read the chapter.
You did. You never notice the small things the first time.
And then I noticed it when I was reading it again for this recording that he was in twice. It was skinny boy on a piebald horse.
Yep.
So Brienne's being followed into it.
Yes. Which means she's not good at her job.
No.
Because she's being tracked, right? I mean,
yeah,
at least when Gollum was following Gandalf, Gandalf knew.
Yeah. But now Podrick's ahead of her.
Yes.
But he can't get too far ahead because then he'll lose her.
Right.
Because she has no idea which way she's going. So maybe he's at the inn right now.
It's possible. He stopped in after she went to bed.
No, maybe maybe the inn was on their way to Duskendale, and that's where he stopped for the night, and then she showed up.
It's entirely possible too.
His description wasn't mentioned in the chapter, but maybe he.
That's entirely possible. Who knows where he is, what he's doing? We'll find out later. But
we will.
All right, that's kind of.
That's it. There was actually a lot to talk about for this chapter that didn't have a lot of stuff in it.
Yeah, it's a chapter that kind of kicks off other things, right?
Yeah, it wasn't a filler chapter. It was literally a lot of little things.
It just wasn't like a Brienne. Like, it was a Brienne chapter, but it didn't have a lot to do with Brienne. The important stuff that was in it. The important stuff was about other people.
Yeah.
The importance of the swords and the importance of the sparrow and the importance of Podrick.
Yeah.
So
George is really good at making these kinds of chapters where at first glance they don't seem like they're really relevant, really important, but if you go through it again, you're like, oh, I need this information, I need this information. Yeah,
when you look at it for face value as far as, propelling Brienne's storyline along, which you would imagine, like, it's her first chapter in the book, you would imagine that it would kickstart her story in a way.
Right.
And in reality, not much of the important stuff from the chapter really has to do with Brienne.
Right.
It has to do with other things, and it's little side mentions of information that are vastly more important, really, than anything that happens with Brienne.
Yes.
Yeah, George is very good at it. All right. We do need a title.
I wrote down 2 while we were recording.
Okay. What do you got?
All the Wrong Places.
Mm-hmm.
And Fool's Quest. What do you have?
So I have Hiding My Honor, which has to do with the conversation that Brienne had, the one-liner that the one guy has about, how people cloak themselves in the things that shame them most, and what would a person who cloaks themselves in the armor of a disgraced family?
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about that.
We didn't really talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
The disgraced family armor that Brienne is roaming around with, because that's what G gave her.
Yeah.
And what that means about her cloaking her shame. Which, I mean, in a way...
He's not wrong.
Right, because she may not have killed Renly. I guess we can move on. She may not have killed Renly, but she still feels responsible because she was there and couldn't stop it.
Yes.
So in a way, she is cloaking her shame.
Yes, absolutely.
Because that is a shame for her.
Yes.
And the fact that she was on this mission for Catelyn. And
Catelyn died before she could accomplish it. Yeah.
That is also a source of shame for Brienne.
Yes.
I think the fact that she's a woman
is a shame for Brienne.
In a lot of ways is a source of shame for Brienne.
Very similar to Cersei in that aspect of.
Yes, and I think they both kind of express it differently.
Oh, absolutely, they do.
Like Brienne expresses it with this like inner fierceness, of just being determined to do things and do the right thing. Whereas Cersei expresses it with an outward fierceness that often comes off as condescension and psychosis.
Yes.
Because it really is.
Yes.
And so it's like two different paths that somebody could take with the same kind of feeling about themselves.
Yes.
Yeah. George, you was so deep.
Yes.
So fucking...
Yeah, does he have a psychology degree?
I have no idea what kind of degree George has. I know he's been writing for TV forever.
Right.
Like the old show Beauty and the Beast. It was on like WPIX. George was one of the writers on that.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, long time ago. Yeah. So that was my hashtag for it, was hiding my honor, because in a way she's cloaking her shame, but she's also hiding her honor, right? She's wearing her shame, this armor, but she's hiding her honor, which is this sword, Oathkeeper, which she keeps hidden in her bedroll. Doesn't show anybody. Doesn't tell anybody that she has. So she's showing off her shame, but hiding her honor. So I called it. I will let you make the final decision with what you want to go.
I like your description, but I think because it wasn't a bigger part of the discussion, it's...
Well, it just was.
Right. But...
Because we just discussed it.
Right.
But we can go with one of the other ones.
I like all the wrong...
Okay. You want to go with that? Or you want to go with Fool's Quest?
All the wrong places I like better. Which one do you like better?
I like both. I like Fool's Quest better, but all the wrong places is fine.
Okay.
All right. Septa, what chapter is next?
You know what? I didn't even look at it.
What? Breather. It'll be a surprise.
Yeah, because I don't have my book with me.
I don't remember who it was. It'll be a surprise.
Yep.
Who's next? But anyway, that'll come out Friday.
Yep.
Early for patrons.
Yes.
Probably available on... Good job, you broke it. Excellent. Fuck with it enough and you'll break it. All right. Let's thank all the listeners. Thank you guys.
Thank you guys.
You guys rock. If you want to support the show, you head on over to our website, iceandfirepod.com. Show you how to get to our Patreon. Show you how to contact us. Show you how to subscribe to the show. Link you out to our YouTube channel where all the videos of these are being posted. So until we catch you guys again in mystery point of view chapter upcoming, goodbye.
Bye, guys.